So Vitality just got 3-0'd today by Giant X in LEC Spring 2026 Week 2 of playoffs. And this is substantial for so many reasons. First and foremost, coming into this regular season, Vitality was coming in with a record of 8-1 coming into the playoffs, And this 8-1 had so much context behind it. First and foremost, this was a best of 3 regular season. So this was ideally more indicative of skill level than a best of 1 regular season like LEC Versus was. On top of that, the only team that they lost to was Carmine Corp, and it was in week 1. So you could write it off as, beginning of split rust. They beat G2. They beat MCOY. They were on an 8-series winning streak. For so many reasons, I don't think it was delusional to buy into the Vitality hype. As I've criticized them in previous videos, people have literally flamed me saying, no, Vitality's going to win it all. And I am not happy to say I was right, but I was onto something. That's all I'm going to say. So there was many reasons to buy into this hype. Plus, it was mentioned on the broadcast today that in LEC Versus, it was much the same. Vitality was super hyped up. They had a great performance in the regular season. And it was said, it was considered by many that had Giant X faced off against Vitality in this series instead of KC, many thought that Vitality would have beaten Giant X and they should be the 4th place team in LEC Versus, not Giant X. And in fact, the last thing I'm going to tell you, so when it comes to the road shows, like for example, the one in Madrid in week 7, so they only are able to take a number of teams. That's why it's kind of messed up with the schedule, and I'm going to talk about that in a future video because it is important. It was brought up today. But basically, they only, every single team that attends one of these road shows is going to play all 3 days, as opposed to like other weeks at the studio where like Fnatic only plays twice, Navi only plays twice, etc. And so for Madrid, for example, they had the top 4 teams from LEC Versus participate: G2, KC, MCOY, and Giant X. Already, it has been announced that the LEC Summer regular season road show to Paris, I believe, hosted by Carmine Corp, is going to have G2, MCOY, KC, and Vitality, as they projected that Vitality was going to be the 4th best team to make it a very exciting event. However, the script has been flipped, and Giant X kind of proved once again that they belong in the top 4. The question for them is, are they going to be able to, push further than that? That's a conversation for a little bit later in the video. So the final thing about Vitality. So I have criticized them in the past. Again, I'm not happy to be right about this. I was buying into the hype until Esports World Cup online qualifier. Now, everybody was telling me this tournament doesn't matter. It's online. It's not the same environment. Nobody's taking it seriously, which I completely disagree. Obviously, EWC, first of all, you make a shit ton of money. I think the prize pool is bigger than even Worlds or any sort of like Riot-based league event. And there are 2 qualifying positions. So you could place second in LEC Spring and not qualify for EWC, but you could qualify. You could place second in this tournament and qualify for EWC. So this was Vitality's best shot at getting to EWC, and they botched it. Not only did they lose 2-1 to MCOY, which was understandable. Again, I think for the most part, even though I myself included, I started to doubt MCOY because of their poor performance in the regular season, I still think many would say that's the result that it should be, right? MCOY beating Vitality. And it was close too, 2-1. And I think the most kind of disappointing part from Vitality's perspective was that they had substantial leads, particularly in the top lane with Knock getting 5 solo kills on Mirwin throughout the series. So whatever, that loss was okay. It kind of just made it seem like, yeah, Vitality, you're top 4, but top 4 at best, right? You're not going to be able to cut into the top 3 that easily. But then they lost to Shifters in the losers bracket, and that is massively disappointing. Listen, as much as I glaze Shio, and I'm happy that he joined this team from Team Heretics, and I do think he has made a substantial impact, undoubtedly. For Vitality to fall short to Shifters, that is bad. And on top of that, for Shifters to fall short to Galleons and an ERL team, it's just like, I know kind of like that MMA math doesn't necessarily apply, right? I've even been a proponent of this kind of like rock, paper, scissors between G2, KC, and MCOY, but if you just bear with me for a second with MMA math, you're telling me Galleons beats Shifters beats Vitality. That is why I thought that Vitality was not going to do well coming into this playoffs. And now I will say, I'm not happy to be right, but I was. And not only was I not happy to be right, but I did not think I was going to be this right. So I believe I also said this in my review of the MCoy vs. Vitality series. Yes, kudos to MCoy. Clearly, they are playing really freaking hot, especially based on their performance versus G2. I think they did phenomenal. They nearly 3-0'd them. Yes, G2 kind of threw game 2, but I see it more as MCoy like kind of bringing it back rather than just a complete throw by G2, which is different than game 5 in my opinion. Anyway, I'm talking about a series that's for a different day. With this series, MCoy versus Vitality, I did think that despite MCoy looking so strong, it did also feel like Vitality was clearly not playing to their potential, especially if you look at Knock, who is usually, no matter what else is happening across the map, is able to create his own leads, especially against someone like Mirwin, who's known as not the best laner. And yet, Mirwin was freaking neutralizing him, dude. Knock established literally 0 leads throughout that series. So that was already a bad sign. But I did think, okay, MCoy looking so strong, maybe they're just a cut above. But then Vitality going into Giant X. Now, I fully admit, I did not watch the series versus KC where Giant X went on to win, which was substantial and unexpected, right? So I think everyone, especially me, have been severely underrating Giant X, and they ultimately 3-0'd Vitality. This is insane. I don't really know what to say about this. People were hyping up Vitality to be title contenders. They had so much going for them with Humanoid, right? I've made videos about Humanoid not being the problem on Fnatic, and now finally he's on a top team, or he's on a different team, and he's able to flourish. He himself has been standing out, in my opinion, in the regular season, outclassing certain mid laners, and it seemed to me like he was also bringing direction to this team through the mid lane, through his shot calling. Linkus has really been playing to his potential, because you got to remember, he won, I think, either LFL or EMEA Masters on KC Blue, and was going to be promoted by KC, but instead went to Vitality because of a pre-existing relationship with Mac and Pad, and yet he kind of did it. He showed up and didn't really flourish the way we all expected him to, and now finally Linkus has been looking like a demon on the map, and I attributed it to having a mid laner who is incredibly, everybody says it, incredibly smart about how to play the map and things like that. So Link is finally playing to his potential. Knock was hyped up last year, and I did not see it. But this year, goddamn, it's undeniable that Knock is fantastic in lane. Undisputed. Even outclassing Kana. Now, granted, Kana has more significance in team fights later on, but still, Kana was known for his laning, so for Knock to outclass him in that regard is just insane. And finally, Carzzy has Flashy, right? He has Fleshy, and as many people have pointed out in my comments, it's finally giving Carzzy a real support for the first time in a very long time. Hylissang, as much as I love him, and I know Carzzy loved him too, by the end of his career in winter 2025, he was just more harm than good at that point. He gets removed. They get Niski, who's a mid laner, and they told him he was going to, like they were going to take some time to learn the role. They get rid of him. They put in Fleshy, and Fleshy had like 2-3 splits to kind of figure his shit out. And he actually was showing a lot of promise. It also was adorable that it was kind of like running back the old Mad Lions. You have Humanoid, Carzzy, you have Mac and Pat as the coaches. You have a Turkish top laner, hot, kind of like new jungler, and a more quiet but pretty dominant support. I don't know. It was getting poetic. I was getting really excited, as you could probably tell. I also, as you guys know, really love all European rosters. So to me, as stupid as it sounds, I much prefer Vitality over GX and KC, because as much as I love Noah and June and I love Yehu and Kana, I want to see an all European roster go farther than teams with imports. Truly, that is like such a core thing to me. So anyway, how did this series go? We can go over it relatively quickly. Game 1, the biggest issue here, and I actually wrote in my notes, so Ashe Seraphine, obviously extremely dominant bot lane that has been kind of defining the entire meta. Really, to me, this recontextualized Game 4 of the MCoy G2 series, where MCoy had Rumble, Lee Sin, Akali, MF, Seraphine. So it seemed like they were trying to take away the Seraphine from the Ashe to remove that combo from G2, and secondly, they were also trying to create a wombo combo where you have Seraphine ult followed by MF ult followed by Rumble ult. I know it sounds like I'm talking a lot about that series. I'm going to get back to this in just a second. What was noteworthy was that in this series, what really stood out about about Seraphine was the shielding. And to me, it's because they had an insane tank top in Lot on Cassante, and they also had Isma on Jinzhao, who has the ultimate to create space from the enemies, right? And so basically it slows down the game. So first of all, two tankier champions, right? I think Jin Zhao is tankier than Lee Sin, right? Because he also doesn't go first item Eclipse. So you're going to have more health and more resistances. And Cassante is way tankier than a Rumble. So both of these picks can take some damage, keep some distance, right, from the poke and the damage attempts from Vitality. And then the shielding from Seraphine is so much more valuable. In the MKOI example, all of their champions were squishy, so those shields didn't do as much protecting and as much healing as it did in this instance. On top of that, Cassante and Jin Zhao are just buying so much space for the long-range poke of Noah, June, and Jackie's, not to mention. So overall, the comp was extremely strong from their side, but really the other part was that Linkus just looked completely invisible even though he was on his famous Aatrox. Fleshy was also being a little bit too ambitious with his Bard. The casters were saying, and it's notable when you watch the game, that when he is on the Bard, he tends to kind of roam a little bit too much, which then puts Carzzy in a weird position because, yes, Carzzy can definitely stay safe on the Caitlyn with the extra range, but Carzzy is not able to then kind of push forward his lead because he doesn't have his support with him, which means he can't play up as far, and he also doesn't have the CC of a support to kind of set him up for plays and kills later on. On top of that, like I said, Fleshy got caught out a few times in the early game, which got GX a bit ahead, and then I want to pull it up. As you can see, I have the highlights tab, but I'm just not going to right now. I hope you don't mind. It was really, actually, I think I have the first one already set up here. In this fight, you can see Vitality took the dragon, right? If I'm not mistaken. Is the dragon even up yet? They must have just taken it, right? And now they're in the dragon pit. Yes, GX is going for it, but they have a Bard portal to escape. Yes, they have, Giant X has 3 kills, and I guess in game, you know, it's harder to tell this, but Vitality has a tower, so they're actually ahead in gold. So there's no reason to be taking this fight, but they are trigger happy. So they start fighting. And I mean, I want to talk, but you just kind of need to see it for yourself. Then you see there's a lot of like kind of miscommunications in the comms. Humanoid only has his flash, otherwise he has no way to get out of the dragon pit here. Carzzy and Linkus can, and Linkus in fact does, if I'm not mistaken, or Carzzy does. Dude, Humanoid flashing forward to try and get an engage when, as Cassiopeia, I guess he sees Noah stepping forward, so he thinks this is like the snap engage, but as you can see, his reactions weren't perfect. Then Fleshy goes for the Bard ultimate. Noah flashes it. They try to go onto Isma. Look at all these ultimates they're burning. Linkus goes in with half HP, and then Knock-Knocko gets pulled out by Lot. Overall, he dies, and that's it. Now the play is just completely scuffed, dude. I think they get Fleshy here. Yeah, dude, it's just a disaster. It's just a disaster. Carzzy gets caught out. Why are we overforcing? And then we get another overforce right here, which actually I was a little bit impressed because the play looks initially very good for Vitality, as you can see here. Excuse me. They get the kill onto June. I believe they get the kill onto Noah as well. And then here we get, as many have called it, the Battle Herald, right? Jin Zhao goes into the Herald and ends up getting a knock-up. I thought he did. But then Bard Portal gets used by Giant X, so Jackie's goes through it, and they end up getting a kill onto Linkus. So a kill that was supposed to be 2 for nothing if they had just immediately beelined it to escape ends up being a 2 for 2, so not worth it for Vitality. Now they're behind in gold, and the rest of the game is just history. And I just wanted to point that out because it's very frustrating to see them just overforce when they really didn't have to, especially when they had the scaling of Cassiopeia. I just didn't get it. Felt really desperate from the team. Game 2... I mean, that's really the story. It was just kind of a snowball by GX at that point. Game 2, a massive disappointment. Freaking Vitality is in the driver's seat for the most part. Knock-Knocko establishes a lead in the top lane, as we've come to expect. It looked like old Knock-Knocko is finally back after 4 games of not being able to establish a lead. And if I jump forward here, I hope I can find it in just a moment. Give me 1 second. It's one of the first plays. So it should be like right here. Yeah. So one of the first plays, Isma sees that Knock is winning here. He's up a level. Knock kills the minion so that the wave can get pushed in and can't get frozen on. I mean, I think they could have still froze it, but whatever. They decided not to. And he also gets the wave and also gets Isma to commit his flash. So good stuff. And later on, Knock is looking incredibly strong throughout. Linkus is also on Jarvan, which I made note about this in my notes. I think it's really odd that they had Vi up and they were picking Jarvan into Ezreal when I figure you'd want to run the Vi so that you have the ultimate to follow Ezreal no matter how far back he goes in the team fight with either his flash or his E. But they go with Jarvan. Now, to be honest, Jarvan was not the problem in this comp or at all, so it ended up not mattering. But I just thought it was weird that they picked Jarvan instead of the Vi. Also, Linkus has been doing this thing where, like, later on he just builds Stopwatch, which reminds me of what's that dude, Malrang from Rogue. I know it obviously like makes sense at that point. Like Jarvan's not going to be doing more damage necessarily. You just want more survivability, buying some time so that you can go in, get some knockups, have CC for your team. I also think that maybe the Jarvan pick was to sync up with Humanoid's Annie, so that basically you Cataclysm and then you have a perfect kind of trap where you can just Tibbers it and then you're good. The problem is later on in this game, Linkus gets a little too trigger happy, and look at how big of a freaking lead that they had, dude. 6-12, massive gold lead. I think at one point they have a 9k gold lead. Look at Humanoid freaking kills Isma, who gets on top of him, and then he flashes the freaking flip, almost gets the kill onto Jackie's. But that's not even the play I'm trying to show you. This is a really good example of the Annie Jarvan synergy. So Humanoid gets a lot of damage onto Isma, and then bang, we get the Cataclysm. So the jungle mid is doing phenomenal. But then there's a play towards the top side. I apologize for having to look for all this. And I do want to like kind of mention some plays in a second, but it's coming up. Yeah, this play right here. So they get a kill onto Lot. Amazing, right? Then Linkus goes forward. He gets June, Noah, and Isma. Awesome, right? The problem is Humanoid has no stun, and he already used the Tibbers, which is his main damaging ability. So what are you going to do? QW with no stun as a follow-up here? Linkus, literally, they're not trapped in there. He's trapped in there with them. So he kind of gets himself killed, and it's one of the many ways that they threw this game. So very unfortunate there. Sorry, I wanted to point out. Otherwise, Carzzy, Fleshy actually gets huge plays in the bot lane that get them ahead, which is insane because, so essentially this is a, 1 second. So this is a double ranged into a melee support matchup, which you would expect to go the way of the double range. Ezreal Karma have been running the show. I can't even show it to you in the freaking highlights. I just have to talk to you about it. Freaking Fleshy finds 2 hooks onto Ezreal, which gets Carzzy a huge life lead, forces Noah to back, and just starts to snowball Carzzy. And very quickly into this game, all of Vitality have gold leads, which I thought was super impressive because Carzzy especially gets caught out twice. But the reason why he managed to have a gold lead was because 1, they put the Ezreal behind, and 2, they were also rotating Carzzy top, for example, as soon as he finished taking plays from the bot side, so that he could take the top plates and the full top tower. And Knock in the bot side, when put against Ezreal, shockingly was able to get on top of him with all his dashes, despite the fact that Ezreal's typically very hard to get on top of, as he's a more mobile AD carry. And Knock gets 2 solo kills on him, I think. Freaking insane. So anyway, just wanted to point out that Fleshy did really amazing. Look, another massive hook. This fight was like kind of crazy, but dude, honestly, like, this reminds me so much of MCOY, the way that all of these guys are fighting on blinking health bars, but it works. They play to their limits, very LPL style. And I mean, maybe the difference between LPL and LEC is that LPL typically are fighting for reasons, whereas LEC at our worst is just fighting because we see people on our screen. But anyway, also, well, I have stuff to say about Isma in a second, but all right. Anyway, at the very end of this, I think Vitality just starts to throw, dude. Like, genuinely just starts to throw. This fight, man, I want to show you guys the 2 times that Carzzy gets caught out. I don't know if I can find it here. Oh, that was one of them. Yeah, look, Carzy, they're taking the dragon. I mean, granted, it is the blue side. That's also insane. I did not realize he got knocked up and went beyond this wall. I didn't even know that interaction was a thing. But yeah, Carzy does get picked off here, which is really bad. But again, that one, it's a little bit more forgivable. Earlier in the game, yeah, it should be like right around here. So Carzy is coming from over here. He blast cones into lot. Granted, he didn't know he was there, but really unsafe pathing to a fight from an AD carry. So he pays the price for it. So Carzy had a really rough game here, and it almost didn't matter. This was also a really good fight. The casters were like calling it bad, but I think at this point, this was just great by Linkus. Wow, what a read on the flash. Manages to get June. Gets his flash and secures a kill. And oh my god, they continue going and Jackie's has to flash, no? Or do they outright get the kill? No, they get the flash. Alright, cool. So yeah, really good stuff there. And then the last person I was going to talk about, the only other thing I was going to say, Jackie's was playing absolutely out of his mind. The way that this game, actually, I want to show you, oh man, I want to show you so many things, but I'm not able to. I think this was the fight. Yeah, here's another kind of Carzy int, unfortunately. So this fight breaks out. And look at Lot. Lot really finds Carzy, and it was very impressive. Look, everybody gets distracted, and nobody's peeling for him. Lot gets on top of him. Linkus tries to peel. Carzy, I don't know if he pops. No, he didn't even have barrier. I don't know what gave him that shield, but probably like freaking Nautilus's locket or something. But anyway, Carzy's able to escape. Then Jackie sees the play. Carzy clearly sees it because he throws the arrows onto Jackie's. Jackie's is nearly dead. It looks like he just needs one auto attack. But then Carzy steps forward. Now looking at it back, it's really fast. But I don't know why he's not able to auto attack him. Anyway, so he falls short and gets killed here. Also, I think they cut to the player cam and Carzy kind of reacts really poorly. And that's kind of another factor that I want to go into, which is the fact that the members of Vitality seem to be really low on morale, which is unlike the kind of crazy, chaotic team that they're usually used to, which is unfortunate. It's really concerning, and it makes me feel like, yeah, that MCOY series probably did do some damage to their mental, which freaking sucks. So Carzy gets caught out there. Lot, kudos to him for constantly being very sharp at his target selection and really being a difference maker in this game. Noah, Jesus Christ, dude. Once he has a lead, especially on Ezreal, he really just starts to run away with the game. And the final two plays that I want to highlight is up here. This play was rough. I don't even know what went wrong here. They just overforce here. Look at Lot. Look at just buying so much time. And then bam, Jackie's, dude. Turning the play around, getting the kill onto Linkus, and suddenly they have to run. And then Fleshy has to give his life so that they don't lose more. And I think Carzy goes down here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he goes down because he doesn't have a way to retreat. But I'm sorry. I really just want to show you the last two plays. It's got to be like right before the game ends. Is it right here? It should be just before this, no? Or no. Knock-Knocko actually does manage to... Oh, no, he doesn't. What am I thinking of, man? Because I know Humanoid gets caught in the bot tier 3. It's like right here. Okay, hold up. Oh, okay. So it wasn't that last play. So check this out. So Vitality is sieging, right? This is actually so nuts that Jackie's finds this. Just at the edge. Now, you could argue, like, why is the squishy mage playing so far forward? I guess Humanoid is threatening for, like, a big ultimate, right? To kill multiple members. But he's way too far forward, gets thrown back, gets killed by Jackie's. And that is sort of like the, okay, they don't have the freaking anti-burst. Jackie's finds a really great position. Look, it's so hard for anybody to get on top of him. He's just throwing down damage. Dude, Linkus misses that EQ. I noticed that when I was originally watching. Misses that EQ, which could have been a game changer because then he would get on top of Jackie's potentially. But overall, then Linkus kind of traps himself once again because he ults and misses the EQ. And that's the end of that play, right? GX push all the way past the inhibitor. And then look at Humanoid one more time. I think it's Jackie's who flashes forward onto him. Ready? Oh, it's Lot. And then bang, right there. Humanoid gets caught twice, and it pretty much cost them the entire game. Carzy and Humanoid was doing okay up to this point. Carzy was doing rough this whole game. And basically, that's freaking it, dude. So yeah, that's that game. And then the final thing to talk about was game 3. So in game 3, it actually looked super duper Vitality favored. I don't love the Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate top for some reason, massive. I don't know if it's because he's side laning or something and you have more power in the mid lane. But humanoid, and especially maybe it's also the humanoid factor of it. Also, he's running Summoner's Spellbook, which is probably why he did like 0 damage because he didn't have any damage dealing rune. But basically, I guess the idea of this comp is to get Knock-Knocko ahead in the side lane, which clearly worked because as this game played out, you see that Humanoid rotated and Knock-Knocko establishes a really strong early game lead, uncontested. So everything was going Vitality's way. They send a bunch of numbers top to get an early tower down. And I think what they should have done here is, unless, I didn't really watch this game too closely, maybe they should have just assigned Humanoid to top lane, and that's it. Essentially make Humanoid the new top laner, and maybe that would have been a big difference here. I don't know. But I'm like literally trying to look past my camera to see the mini-map. I think they just kept sending Humanoid mid. Then Humanoid makes mistakes like this where he teleports bot, immediately gets caught by the Skarner ultimate, and then he goes down. So that's that. And then the game is looking okay. I mean, this here also at this dragon fight, I believe, or no, later on, Vitality loses 2, but then they're in the driver's seat, dude. This is another like massive gold lead here, and specifically Carzzy is playing near flawlessly, dude. Towards the end of the game, he's like 7-0-4. Not really much else to say here. This is a bad play by Linkus, man. This is like one of those things, and this is kind of a play and a criticism of MKOI, for example. What they do is like they don't know how to push their leads, and that is a genuine problem, right? There are teams who create leads and then they call it's like rogue, right? Rogue time. They have a lead and they don't know how to close out a game, so they just end up kind of slowly bleeding out and letting the other team get gold, and then eventually the gold doesn't matter, right? Because everyone can kind of one tap each other. So I understand that you have to make plays, but also a big thing that Dagda mentioned was the target selection. Linkus would often commit everything. Granted, I mean, back here he does have Noah and June, but you have Isma as a huge wall. You have Jackies who can also help peel with the Anivia wall and the storm and whatnot. Knock-Knocko, is he really going to be able to get in on 4 different team members at once with nobody else able to reach? Long story short, it's a bad engage. And like I said, there's also a lot of moments where Linkus is going in on Isma, who's a freaking Skarner, dude. Like right here, right? So look, Linkus goes in, and it's like you have all the opportunity with your W to get on Noah and June, for example. Especially if you wait here, you could actually cancel Lucian ultimate. There's so much potential, but instead, and also Carzzy's on the flank here on the left. If you knock everybody up here and Carzzy just starts free hitting, that would have been massive. But unfortunately, Linkus makes a bad call here. Still, somehow Carzzy manages to somewhat save the play. But overall, whatever. The biggest play is coming up towards the end of the game here. So again, Carzzy is playing near flawlessly. They actually almost end the game. I forgot about this. They almost end the game. Do they go in on Isma again? I think they do. Yeah, just on Isma. Isma immediately impales. Freaking Lot's entire job is to try and kill Carzzy, and it doesn't pay off until it matters most. Later on, they end up getting the kill. Freaking GX gets the Elder, which means that freaking Vitality can't fight into them, even though they swap for the Baron. They try to slow things down, and they are successful, but ultimately, the game... I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm stalling here. The game collapses... is it here? No, not yet. Almost. The game collapses right here. So look, 4 of GX are moving forward. Noah, dude, big balls on Noah. Immediately moves forward. I think it is a flaw on Carzzy for being this pushed up. I guess Carzzy's thinking to himself, I have ultimate, but and flash for that matter, and exhaust. But look at that, bang. Noah just steps forward. He also has June. Fleshy does try to go in, but that impale completely shuts down Fleshy's engage. And I think here, like, I understand... Carzzy wasn't looking for Noah so much as he got caught out and was trying to make the best of it and felt confident because he had pretty much all of his tools. But now, bam, you burned all your tools, so did Fleshy. You got nothing for it. You didn't even pop GA. All you got was, what, barrier from Lucian, and that's it, dude. This is it. Lot also is able to step forward, even though Carzzy has full HP. Watch this. Look at Lot. Lot just gets on top of him, and Karzi just has nothing for him, even with the exhaust. Knock-Knocko has nothing. They get the kill onto Lot, but it literally does not matter. Knock-Knocko tries to make something happen. This is a throw. Another throw by Vitality. It's an extreme disappointment, dude. Extreme disappointment. So, where do we go from here? Well, I'm going to show you real quick one last thing. So, basically, that's that, right? We have Vitality as, I'm sad to say it, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not trying to, like, make the players feel worse. And by the way, I really love you guys, so do not, like, if the Vitality guys are watching, like, do not take this the wrong way or whatever. But they are officially not the one of the top 4, right, that we thought they were. It is Giant X. It is Giant X. And again, like I said, I love this team because it's all EU talent, or EMEA talent, I should say. Right, I don't like the fact that Giant X has imports. I think it'd be way more exciting if they had a EU bot lane, and same thing with KC as they have EU Korean solo laners. I also really like Humanoid and Karzi. I think Karzi just really slumped it today. Besides the Xayah game, it was kind of like every game somebody was slumping it. Game 1, Linkus and Fleshy were slumping it. Game 2. It was Karzi, and game 3, it was Humanoid, right? At the very least. Maybe others were also included in that. And I don't know what you do. I think this is a really massive mental defeat to get 0-3'd back-to-back, especially MCoy. Maybe you could swallow it, but then to get 3-0'd by Giant X as well. Now, granted, Giant X is very hyped up, especially behind the scenes. They say they're scrim monsters. So I don't mean to discredit. It's like, oh, they got 3-0'd by Giant X. Like, no, Giant X is a good team. So maybe I'm discrediting them here. But I think Vitality, who had aspirations to win it all, I think this is going to be a really, really hard loss. I don't know that you make roster changes here. You certainly don't change Knock-Knocko. I don't think you change Humanoid. I don't even know what mid laner you could get. Anyway, I'm getting into a conversation for a later day about what we could change here. The only thing I would do, because I freaking love him so much, is maybe you get Mickey X, but I don't know if Mickey X wants to work with Humanoid, because obviously on Fnatic there was some disconnect there. And also, I don't mean to disrespect Fleshy, because Fleshy's great. So, it's just, I mean, on paper, Mickey X looks like an upgrade. But maybe I'm wrong, because Mickey's obviously struggling on SK right now, and he got kicked on G2 for some reason in 2024, right? So, the last team I want to talk about is Giant X. So, again, once again, officially our 4th place team. Really, the standouts here, Lot and Jackie's. Everybody's been telling me for a super long time that Jackie's in particular has massively stepped up. I got to eat my words. He has stepped up big time in this series, that is for sure. Isma, people were saying that he was kind of slumping it. Noah and June looked fantastic, particularly Noah. June didn't really stand out massively, but he did his job, especially on Seraphine, for example, just shielding everybody. Absolutely did his job. Isma, the note that I have about Isma from watching this game is that he is an early game ganker, very similar to Elyoya. The only difference is that I feel like Isma, yes, he does go for play, and he's willing to sacrifice his own camps and his own resources. The problem is, I have not seen him make sacrifices to just fix someone's lane state. It looks like he's willing to sacrifice his resources if he thinks him and his team can get a kill. But if he doesn't see a kill, I don't feel like he, will sacrifice his tempo to set up Jackie's lane, for example, to freeze a wave, something like that. Obviously, if it's convenient, like if they go for a play and then, Jackie's dies, for example, or Lot dies and he's in the lane, yes, then he'll set it up. But like, if Lot just solo loses lane or whatnot, I don't think Isma goes. Or if he's going to lose lane, I don't think Isma has the foresight to say, oh shit, let me just actually cover here. You know what I mean? That doesn't seem to be his play all the time. He's looking more for aggression and kills, which is totally fine at the end of the day. But I just think that could be an improvement to his game. I am really excited to see tomorrow's games. I am hoping that Giant X beats KC a little bit selfishly, because I'm hoping that Giant X gets beat by MCoy and we can see MCoy in the finals. But otherwise, I mean, if I was a betting man, you have to bet on KC, especially in a 5-game series. Maybe they'll slip up and lose 2 games, but I can't see them losing 3. Honestly, GX reinvigorated my belief in them. They played fantastic today. They do look like everybody's playing very well. Isma maybe looks like he could do a little bit more. June maybe a little bit more, but not by much. They're playing pretty strong. And they're all showing a clutchness. Lot literally neutralizing Knock-Knocko is more than anybody could ask for. And then to be super relevant in team fights like he was today, particularly on the Jax. he was great. And then honestly on the Olaf, granted he wasn't successful at doing this until the very last play, but what I really appreciate is it's like, what you could tell is that Giant X is organized. Like, they all know their jobs when they get into a fight. And I think that's really underrated. A lot of times, fights can be very chaotic, and maybe there is more method to the madness than what I'm aware of. But in this series, you could clearly tell Lot's job was get onto Carzzy. Don't let Carzzy play in a team fight. And he did his job beautifully. And I think he shut down Carzzy many times, both on the Jax when he was going into the Varus, and then as the Olaf going into the Xayah. So, shout out to Lot, had a great series. Noah had a great series. And yeah, I think for tomorrow, I don't know, I'm going to cover it. That's all I can say, but I'm not sure who I would bet on winning. I guess I would say KC, but it might be really close based on how Madrid went. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I forgot once again to beg you guys for subscriptions, so please subscribe. We're trying to hit 1,000. It's already the end of May. What a shame. But by the end of June, there's no doubt in my mind we'll hit it. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.